And in this video, we're going to go back and readdress a couple things that we kind of glossed over. Um, the first thing we're going to readdress was something I said many videos ago, and that was why a firm supply, marginal cost curve is U-shaped, yet industry supply is linear. Okay? Of course, industry supply is equivalent to marginal cost. This implies then that if industry supply is made up of the horizontal summation of all firm supply curves, and it's equivalent to marginal cost, then industry marginal cost must be the sum of all firms' marginal cost curves. But this begs the question then, what is this firm's supply curve? Well, in a perfectly competitive world, of course, we have prices equal demand equal marginal revenue. In a perfectly competitive world, the firm's individual supply curve is that portion of the marginal cost curve above the shutdown point. In other words, above minimum average variable cost. Why is that the case? Because when prices drop below that point, as we've mentioned before, the firm shuts down in the short run. So the quantity supplied is zero, okay? As prices rise above this point, however, marginal revenue rises with it, meaning that the intersection, the profit maximizing condition, the intersection of marginal cost and marginal revenue moves to the northeast as prices rise. This means that quantity supplied increases as prices rise. In other words, the quantity supply that the firm supplies increases as prices rise. So this portion of the marginal cost curve of a firm's marginal cost curve is actually their firm level supply curve. Okay, the total supply curve, of course, if you want to get real detailed about it, equals this portion as well. But we only really deal with the interesting portion of supply at the firm level, which is that portion of the marginal cost curve above the shutdown point. Now, as you can see, this portion here is relatively linear. And if you sum these up, you get industry supply, which is relatively linear. Okay, so that is why for the first bunch of videos, I drew industry supply and industry marginal cost as a linear curve rather than a U-shaped curve like we found out later that actually exists at the firm level. So that's one thing I want to clarify. The other thing I wanted to clarify was what we just went over in the last video, and that is as firms enter or leave an industry, industry supply shifts left or right. If we remember way back when, one of our supply curve shifters is a change in the number of firms. How does that actually work? Well, think of it this way. If we've got 3 different firms, marginal cost curves, okay, and at a particular price level, say P prime, firm 1 will produce Q1 units at the same price level, okay. Firm 2, we'll say this is firm 1, firm 2, at the same price level, say firm 2 produces Q2 units. assume Q1 units is equal to 2. Q2 units is equal to 3. Assume we have a third firm over here that's producing also in the perfectly competitive industry, and they produce Q3 units and say that's equal to 1 unit. Over here in the market, okay, over here in the market, then that means at that price level, there is 2 plus 3 plus 1. There is 6 units being produced at that price level. That's the quantity supplied at that price level. As you can see, if I put another firm in here producing a positive level of output at that price level, this is firm 3. If I put another firm in here producing a positive level of output at that price level, then that positive level of output will be out here somewhere, meaning that industry supply shifted to the right. You can also see that if I take away a firm, I'm now summing over fewer marginal cost curves, meaning that output level drops at that price level and industry supply shifts to the left. Okay? This is how we got the movement in supply. And this is the reason why a change in number of firms is a supply curve shifter. Because as firms move in industry, we're summing over more marginal cost curves, pushing industry supply to the right. As firms leave the industry, we're summing over fewer marginal cost curves, pushing industry supply to the left. Just want to clarify those points as we move on into the next video especially.